The Lions and the Vikings. Ziggy and I were in the car today, going to the diner, get some breakfast time. You know, New Jersey diners, it's awesome. And we were thinking about this NFC North.
Get a pork roll.
Taylor ham.
Get a pork roll.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to defend it to death like some people, but it's Taylor ham. Pork roll sounds a little disgusting.
Taylor ham. Pork roll sounds gross.
Ziggy and I were in the car and we were thinking to ourselves, 5-0 Vikings, 4-1 Lions. Both these teams look really good. The entire NFC North looks really good. Is this possibly the biggest, like, what was the biggest NFC North game before this one? And we came down on it. I'm not even sure if it actually counts, but the Lions and the Packers a couple of years ago, Rodgers' last game at Lambeau Field to get Green Bay in the playoffs. Detroit was sort of in a spot where they were coming up. It was right before they emerged. Wait, what are you laughing at?
It's funny how that game ended.
Yeah, that was great.
I mean, I think if Detroit if that was a winner gets in type of playoff type of situation, it would be a little higher up. But
you think this game's bigger than that one? One seed on the line?
It's tough because, no, I'd say right now, actually, probably not. Because that game would have gotten Green Bay to the postseason. Whereas, what is this still, week 6?
This is week 7 now.
I mean, this is a huge game. Mm-hmm. But the fact that was a home game in prime time to get Rodgers to the playoffs, Lions were playing spoiler, I'd probably give that the nod.
It's been at least a season since we've had a game in the NFC North this big.
Yeah, and it's close. Like, this might be bigger. It's close.
The line opened at what? Vikings -1.5?
Yeah, now it's starting to move a little bit depending on your sportsbook of choice, but it's hovering about there.
I think the general public, I guess people are betting on the Vikings right now.
Lions are favored? Lions are favored?
No, Vikings are favored.
So Vikings were 1.5 and moved to 2.5, but that's weird because I feel like the general public has been talking about the Lions. You know, the Lions are crushing people. They just dominated 2 teams in a row. The Cowboys was really just kind of a statement game for them. The Aiden Hutchinson injury obviously sucks, but it feels like Detroit is kind of moving into that we're the best team in the NFC role that a lot of people thought they might take this season. And the Vikings, you know, they're sitting there 5-0 during their bye week. Every NFC North team looks great.
Knock on wood.
But yeah, knock on wood. But also there are some doubts about them. So where we're at right now, Ziggy, let me look over to you here. What are you thinking about the general public view of this game? The Lions being the team that's kind of fulfilling their destiny and the Vikings still hot.
It's funny, right? Because normally you've got like a team undefeated coming off a bye playing at home and you think like, oh yeah, right. This is their awesome spot.
Yeah.
But I almost feel better being the Lions coming off 2 blowout wins, right? They obliterated the Seahawks. They obliterated the Cowboys. And now they're probably thinking, look, if we can crush those teams, it's no big deal to go into Minnesota. We're facing who? Sam Darnold? If we can beat Dak Prescott, we can beat Sam Darnold. So I get why people are looking at the Lions as the team that's fulfilling their destiny. But on the other hand, I think it's easy to look at those games and say that Lions defense sure was monstrous. That Lions offense sure was great. Things have changed a little bit. Hutchinson's out, right? There was that horrible, horrible injury. I hated to see that. That was unbelievably unfortunate. Sam Darnold and the Vikings offense is great. The Vikings defense is the best defense in the NFL, I think, by a good bit. They're great against the run.
Let me ask you, Ziggy, when you say that, are you talking about, and because Jack is more of a feel it out guy, you're more of a statistical guy. Are you coming at that from the metric standpoint, or are you coming at that from what you've seen, or a little bit of both?
Both. I mean, DVOA, they're number 1 pass defense, number 1 rush defense. Okay, big stats guy with his numbers. Just watch this team. Right, the Lions crushed the Vikings defense last year. We saw it, right? Jared Goff was great against us. Flores had his like one-trick pony blitzes, and that was it.
Yep.
You've seen this Vikings defense through 6 games at this point, or through 5 games at this point. We know what they are. It's a bunch of young guys, incredibly fast, incredibly confusing, always making big plays. Pick 6 here, fumble there, sack there. Like, Flores is finally unleashed. It's hard not to, like, I don't think there's any question this is the best defense in the NFL, no matter what you're watching.
How do you feel about that, Jack?
So, my feeling, so to say, you know, I'm not the numbers guy, but
it's nice that you can kind of just come up here and say whatever the hell you want.
Yeah. So
some of us have to do research. Jack's just sitting around asking like, would you rather questions while Paul and I are trying to research for the show.
Speaking of would you rather, I'll conjure up some good ones throughout the show that I'll ask you guys. I have some good ones that I've come up with recently.
Please don't.
Please don't. Later on in the show, but I'm feeling the Vikings win in this spot. I mean, Detroit the last 2 weeks have looked great, but as good as they may be, right? It's not easy to go on the road, murder Dallas, and then you have a week, you go on the road and murder Minnesota. And then in the meantime, Minnesota has had a bye week, 2 weeks to prepare for Detroit. Detroit had to prepare to go into Dallas. Now it's 6 days going to Minnesota.
Look good in Dallas.
Oh, they look great. But I think this is a spot where people will be all over the Lions, not buying into Minnesota, not being super high or believing on Minnesota yet. Detroit is starting to catch their groove. And at home, Minnesota, I think, gets them. Laying the short number, I think I would lay it. I think I'd take the Vikings in this spot.
You know,
that's my feeling. I think I'm feeling the Vikings this week.
It's been a while. People, NFC North fans who are watching this, or just anyone who's been keeping up with the Vikings, the Lions, the Lions have kind of owned the Vikings over their past 5 games. They're 4-1 over the last 5, and the last 3 have really been kind of embarrassing. The Kirk Cousins year where we were 13-4, we went into Detroit and just got spanked at the end of the year. And then last season, they mauled us twice. I mean, I understand that Kirk Cousins wasn't playing in those games, but it wasn't close. Like, they just ran all over our defense. And this is, as Ziggy said, this is a different Vikings defense than the one we've had 2 years over the last few seasons. Like, very different. But they felt unstoppable at times. And it's, that's where I think the Lions offense is clicking at a rate they haven't this entire season. So for me, it'll be very refreshing as a Vikings fan to see them just get a stop against Detroit when we haven't seen that for a couple of years now.
Let's also not forget the fact and not get caught up in the fact that, and I'm aware, like, to beat a team by 40 points in the NFL is like, wow, it's eye-opening. Dallas is atrocious. Like, they're really bad. I think Minnesota goes in there and crushes Dallas too.
Probably, yeah.
I don't think it's anything to be like, oh, wow, like, look at it against Dallas.
So let me ask you guys a couple questions now on the game. We've sort of felt, given how we feel about it, but Goff versus Darnold right here. These are kind of, similar guys in some ways in that they've sort of been doubted their entire careers, high draft picks. But Goff has now come into this role where everyone basically trusts Jared Goff. I don't think there are many people who doubt Goff at this point. While Darnold is sort of where Goff was a few years ago. He's sort of emerging and becoming a quarterback. Too much?
The place where Jared Goff was a few years ago was he was coming off of going to the Super Bowl, and the Rams traded him like he didn't look good. But like Sam Darnold has had no success in his career before.
I'm sorry. Yes, Darnold never had anything like a few of the Goff years in LA. But when he was traded from LA for a reason, he was struggling. So Darnold is finally kind of not living up to his hype, but he's finally playing well. Period. And I think it'd be dumb to say who do you trust more, because everyone would say Jared Goff. But given the situation where the Vikings defense is the number 1 defense in the league right now, Detroit just lost Aiden Hutchinson. Who are you expecting to have a bigger game from?
I think this is a great time for the Vikings to have a bye because TJ Hawkinson is angling to come back. Aaron Jones practiced today. We'll see whether or not he's able to play this week, but with all of the weapons around him. I'm not saying the Lions offense doesn't have any weapons, but you're telling me like Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones, TJ Hawkinson, a good offensive line.
The Lions have a lot of weapons.
No, I know, but I'm saying like that might be the best room in the NFL in terms of weapons. And Sam Darnold has shown that even against good defenses, like the Texans defense is not a bad defense. He has shown that he can execute at the highest level against them. On the other hand, Jared Goff, very good player, but he struggles a lot when he's under pressure. And while he's been very good against the blitz, and that's worked well against the Lions, or that's worked well before.
Can you distinguish that for people who might not?
Yeah, the blitz is when you send extra rushers after the quarterback. Being under pressure is when rushers, whether you're sending extra guys or not, actually get there. Mm-hmm. When guys get to Jared Goff, he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL because he doesn't have mobility. Sam Darnold, he's not the most mobile quarterback you've ever seen, but he can navigate a pocket. He can run. He can get out sometimes. I think our defense is going to be able to get to Jared Goff. And I think because we'll get to Jared Goff, he's going to make some mistakes. And that's going to be what decides the game. Now, I could be wrong, right? But
rarely, but
look, here's the thing. Like the Lions defense total this season, 15 sacks. Aiden Hutchinson is 7.5. Aleem McNeil's the only guy with more than 1. Other than Aiden Hutchinson. Mm-hmm. Like those were guys playing next to Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah.
That loss is so big. And the Lions secondary, they've had good games, they've had bad games, but they have not faced a challenge like this. right? Having to face Justin Jefferson, having to face Jordan Addison. That's one of the toughest assignments you can pull in the NFL. If TJ Hawkinson gets in there, if Aaron Jones can start running. So I definitely think I'm expecting a bigger game from Darnold.
Can you see this? Can you see what's happening to Ziggy right now? Jack?
He's going to be heartbroken soon, right?
You can see it, right?
Yeah, he's going to be heartbroken.
No,
I love you,
no, I'm not letting you get me down. What did I say last week?
optimists.
I said blowout.
We're
What
optimists.
happened?
We're optimists.
Blowout.
I love
Maybe there's another blowout brewing.
I also like Minnesota, so you know that you're probably going to be right because I like it.
Yeah, Ziggy and Jack agree.
Look, I'm trying to be an optimist, but I am laughing at Ziggy's fairly new to his Vikings fandom. It's been a few seasons now, and you've experienced a little bit of the heartbreak, but this is sort of the route that it looks like. Like, obviously, I'm playing the optimist card now, but this is kind of what it looks like before it goes to shit. I will say this. We talked a lot of positives about the Vikings. The Lions are arguably playing the best football in the NFL over the past couple weeks. What I'm really looking for is up front that Vikings D-line versus the Lions offensive line, and how Detroit's able to establish a run game. Because I said it on the reaction show, Detroit, Baltimore, sometimes Philadelphia, they're able to just, all right, run down your throat. They're able to just run down your throat and enforce
if you know we're going to do it, couldn't you say anything else? Run the ball effectively, dominate the line. Like, there's so many things
they're
you
able
could
to
say.
dominate the line. And when they do,
I still can't get over the run down your throat. Keep going.
When they do that, though, that's what opens up a lot for Goff, because you talk about blitzing and pressuring him. If Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery are going crazy, you have to send more guys because they're too effective. David Montgomery, I know, Ziggy, you were saying you were a little surprised about his contract, but he's phenomenal.
No doubt.
Great. I mean, that 1-2 punch is lethal. Both those guys could be number one anywhere. Jahmyr Gibbs, you guys said, I gas him up too much sometimes, but every time he gets the ball, he's lightning in a bottle. So if the Vikings can't stop that, it could turn into a long day for a defense that, as good as they are and as fun as they are and crazy as they are, if you can't stop the run, Jared Goff will pick you apart too, because it's pick your poison with this team if you cannot win at the line of scrimmage.
What did Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery say? Want to go down as the best 1-2 combo in the history of the league?
They're amazing. They are amazing.
I do think that this Hutchinson loss, though, could prove to be super, super big in a game like this. Because this Detroit secondary, while it's improved, it's a little bit sus. And without Hutchinson, without any... What?
That was just funny.
without pressure, if Sam Darnold is not pressured, he can pick this defense
Remember
apart.
we talked about the Packer game? How to get after Sam Darnold? Like, how do you take down this Vikings offense? Make Sam Darnold make mistakes?
But if he's not pressured, he will attack this Lions secondary with the weapons he has. I also saw him this weekend at that USC Penn State game. Like, he was standing on the sideline with his hat, with his sunglasses.
Confidence.
I'm like, this guy is such a beast standing here 5-0. Like, he's the man. He's not going to lose at home.
Do the Vikings deserve to be, before we move on here, do the Vikings deserve to be favored?
Yeah.
I think they do. I hear what you're saying, Paul, about the run game, right? And you're thinking like, well, look, if Andrew Van Ginkel has to start doing run support rather than doing the kind of stuff he does, that would be disastrous for us. But I think that this is going to go like a lot of Viking games have gone this year. Our offense is unstoppable. It just is. Set aside the times they've been stopped. It's unstoppable. I really think if you can get Aaron Jones and TJ Hawkinson in, again, if they're out, it's a different story, right? What's our depth chart without Aaron Jones? It's Ty Chandler, CJ Ham, and Myles Gaskin.
Yeah.
Not scaring anybody.
Serviceable, but not.
Yeah. And our running offense has been medium. But if you can get Aaron Jones in there and you can add TJ Hawkinson as a weapon, Johnny Mundt has really impressed me. I'm throwing no shade at him, but TJ Hawkinson is one of the best receiving tight ends in football.
He's our number 2 receiver when he's on the field.
Yeah, if you can add
Jordan Addison is, TJ Hawkinson's the number 2.
Add those guys, get an explosive start, get a bit of a lead going. I think that's been the Vikings' formula to success: is get a big lead and hold on
for dear life recently.
I mean, and it's for dear life, right? But if you're worried about the Lions' run game, get a lead, let them run the ball. If they want to burn a bunch of clock doing it, go ahead. So I think that the Vikings are going to get off to a hot start. I think that's going to be enough. And I understand why they're favored. I wouldn't want to be. Does anybody want to go into Minnesota right now? Surely not.
This is a Hawkinson revenge game, right?
Oh, yeah.
What are
You're right.
What are the Hawkinson props out there on these sports books? I might have to hammer them.
That could be.
I don't think we'll see any until we know if he's playing or not.
True. Well, he'll play. I know he'll play. I saw my crystal ball. Who do you think is closer in like, where's the gap closer? Me to Myles Gaskin or Myles Gaskin to Aaron Jones?
Seriously?
Yeah.
It's obviously, where's the gap, smaller or bigger?
Where's the gap bigger?
It's obviously between you and Myles Gaskin. Myles Gaskin is almost good enough to be the best running back in the NFL. Like, we're talking if he's a few percent better, right? He's one of the best. The gap between you and a like remotely serviceable NFL
what do you
running
put
back.
Jack behind the Lions offensive line?
What about
Then the Lions, yeah. Then Jack's going to the hospital. That's what's happening.
what about me and Caleb Williams or Caleb Williams and Tom Brady?
I'm not doing this anymore.
I'd say I think you're better suited to be a running back than a quarterback.
I think he's best suited
Yeah.
to be on a podcast, actually.
Yeah. Well, what's the yeah. We'll move on. We'll move on.
No, I think I'd be a good corner, actually. I can cover people.
No, you can't.
So you guys both have the Vikings right now. I actually, again, taking off my unbiased stat, I would probably say the Lions should be favored. No, sorry, not favored. I understand why the Vikings are favored because they're at home. But I have a neutral party. I would think Detroit is going to win this game. I just think that they're a better team.
That's pathetic for you to say.
No, but I understand why you're saying.
Obviously, I'm rooting for the Vikings, and we clearly can win. But I think Detroit's really, really good.
If you're a fan of a 5-0 team who's playing at home off a bye week, saying, "Oh, I'd pick us to lose," if I was non-biased.
Well, I am biased though, so I'm rooting.
No, but it's on this show. Here's what we do: we're willing to be biased sometimes, but we'll tell you what we really think.
I believe in our team. I have a lot of faith in our team. I would love to win this football game. I think Detroit's playing really well too.
I mean, these probably are the two best teams in the NFL, based on what we've seen through this point.
I mean, I put Baltimore in there as well. I think Baltimore's playing really good.
They're the two best teams in the NFC, no question.
I have to. I'm going to pick the Vikings, obviously. But
Who's more biased?
I'm just
me or
saying we got to give Detroit respect.
Ziggy, who's more biased, me or you?
Must be you.
You think so?
Has to be.
You know, the top four teams in point differential are all in the NFC North.
Yeah, did you see that stat?
Yeah, Vikings 63, Lions 60, Bears 47, Packers 41. Rounding it out. Pittsburgh Steelers 38.
Hey, look at that. Cheers, Jack.
I mean, that's shocking.
That is shocking.
That's shocking.
But that's why this game is so important, right? Is this division is stacked. I mean, I think that is in order, like if you win this game, you are in a great position to get the one seed. If you lose this game, it's tough to win the division.
But Minnesota in particular, like if they win this game, that's 2 games up.
On the one seed.
Yeah, if Detroit wins this game.
If you told us at the start of the season, in week 7 ends and the Minnesota Vikings are 2 games up, not on the wild card, not on the division, the 1 seed.
But then if Detroit wins,
it's too good to be true.
If Detroit wins, you guys are tied. Like it's huge.
Yeah,
more so for Minnesota.
Detroit could be in last place or like tied for last place.
Actually, it's probably bigger for Detroit.